Anger Management for the Everyday Person, Tools to Stay Calm in a Chaotic World. A motivational audiobook by the Protocols of Astrian. You picked up this book for a reason. Maybe you snapped at your kids this morning over something small. Maybe you spent your whole commute replaying an argument in your head, thinking of all the things you should have said. Maybe you're just tired of feeling like a volcano waiting to erupt, never knowing which little thing will be the one that makes you blow. Whatever brought you here, I want you to know something important right from the start. You are not broken, you are not a bad person, and you are not alone. Anger is part of being human, and the fact that you're reading these words means you're ready to understand it instead of letting it run your life. This book is not about turning you into someone who never feels angry. That would be impossible and, honestly, not even healthy. This book is about giving you simple, real-world tools to handle anger when it shows up, so you can keep your peace without losing your voice. The world right now is a lot. News alerts scream at your phone, social media feeds are designed to make you furious, people drive like maniacs, and everyone seems to have an opinion about everything. It's no wonder so many of us feel one bad day away from losing it completely. But here's the truth they don't tell you: anger isn't the problem. Anger is just a messenger. It's trying to tell you something about what you need, what you fear, or what matters to you most. The problem is that most of us never learned how to listen to the message without letting the messenger destroy everything in its path. This book is going to teach you that skill. No complicated psychology terms, no shame. No, just meditate for an hour every day, advice that works for nobody with a real life. Just honest talk and practical tools from someone who knows what it's like to feel your face get hot and your fists clench and your brain go blank right when you need it most. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Chapter 1: The Good, Bad, and Ugly Truth About Anger. Let's start with something that might surprise you. Anger is not your enemy. In fact, anger has kept humans alive for thousands of years. When early humans saw a tiger, anger gave them the burst of energy they needed to fight back or run like crazy. When someone treated them unfairly, anger gave them the fire to stand up and say something. Your anger is still trying to do that same job today: protect you, energize you, tell you that something isn't right. The problem is that your brain hasn't quite figured out that the guy cutting you off in traffic is not a tiger and doesn't require the same level of response. So here you are, stuck with a body that reacts to minor frustrations like your life is in danger, flooding you with chemicals that make you shake and yell and do things you regret later. That's not a character flaw. That's just your ancient brain doing its best with modern problems. But here's where the bad news comes in. Just because anger isn't evil doesn't mean it can't cause real damage. When anger runs the show, it costs you things you can never get back. It costs you relationships when you say things you can't unsay. It costs you peace when you lie awake replaying arguments. It costs you respect when people start walking on eggshells around you. It costs you health when your body lives in a constant state of high alert, flooding your system with stress chemicals day after day. And maybe worst of all, it costs you yourself. Because when you're always angry, you stop being the person you actually want to be. You become someone who snaps at cashiers and curses at other drivers and pushes away the very people who love you most. That's the ugly truth about anger, and we're not going to pretend it isn't real. Now here's the good news that makes this whole journey worthwhile. Anger is learnable. You can teach yourself new ways to respond, just like you learn to ride a bike or cook a new recipe. It takes practice, and you'll fall down sometimes, but you can absolutely get better at this. The brain is incredibly flexible, especially when you give it new patterns to follow. Every time you pause instead of explode, you're building a new pathway in your brain that makes it easier to pause next time. Every time you name what you're really feeling underneath the anger, you're strengthening your ability to understand yourself. This isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming better, one small moment at a time. Think about anger like a smoke alarm. A smoke alarm is useful. It warns you when something's wrong. But a smoke alarm that goes off every time you burn toast is exhausting and useless. It makes you want to rip it off the wall. Most of us are walking around with smoke alarms that are way too sensitive, going off at the smallest things. This book is going to help you adjust your settings, not remove the alarm completely. You still want to know if there's a real fire. But you want to stop jumping up every time life burns a little toast. You want to know the difference between a true emergency and a minor annoyance. That's what we're building together. The beautiful thing about this work is that it doesn't require you to change who you are at your core. You can still be passionate. You can still stand up for yourself and the people you love. You can still have strong opinions and express them clearly. All of that can stay. What changes is the volume knob. You learn to turn down the intensity so you can think clearly, speak wisely, and act in ways that actually help the situation instead of making everything worse. You become someone who can feel anger without being controlled by it. And that changes everything: your relationships, your health, your sleep, your sense of yourself. So before we go any further, I want you to take a deep breath and give yourself some credit. You're here. You're reading. You're willing to look at something in yourself that isn't easy to look at. That takes courage, whether you feel courageous or not. Most people spend their whole lives running from their anger, blaming other people for it, or drowning it in distractions. You're doing something different. You're showing up to understand yourself better. And that alone tells me you have everything you need to make real changes. The rest is just learning, practicing, and giving yourself grace when you mess up. Let's get started. Chapter 2. What happens inside your body when you lose it? Have you ever noticed how anger feels like it takes over your whole body before your brain even catches up? One minute you're fine, and the next your heart is pounding, your face is hot, your hands are shaking, and words are flying out of your mouth that you don't even recognize. It can feel like you're possessed, like something else has taken the wheel while you're just along for the ride. But here's what's actually happening. Your body is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's just that the design hasn't been updated in about 50,000 years. Your body doesn't know the difference between a real physical threat and someone cutting in line at the grocery store. It treats both like emergencies, and it floods you with everything it's got to help you survive. Let's take a quick tour of what goes on inside when anger strikes. Deep in the center of your brain sits a tiny, almond-shaped thing called the amygdala. Think of it as your brain's security guard, always watching for danger. When it spots something it doesn't like, it sounds the alarm and sets off a chain reaction throughout your entire body. Your adrenal glands start pumping out cortisol and adrenaline like crazy. Your breathing speeds up to get more oxygen to your muscles. Your heart races to pump blood where it might be needed most. Your digestion basically shuts down because your body thinks you need energy for fighting, not for digesting lunch. Your hands get ready to grip or strike. Your face flushes as blood rushes to your skin. You are, in that moment, a machine built for survival. Now here's the problem with all this. That survival mode was built for physical threats that last a few minutes. You fight the tiger or you run from the tiger, and then it's over. But modern anger triggers don't work that way. You can be angry at your boss for hours. You can be angry at politics for years. Your body doesn't know how to turn off the alarm when the threat doesn't go away. So you end up living in a state of low-grade emergency all the time, your body constantly flooded with stress chemicals that wear down every system you have. This is why chronic anger is so hard on your health. It's like leaving your car engine running full speed in the driveway all day, every day. Eventually, something's going to break. The really tricky part is what happens to your thinking brain when you're in this state. The part of your brain that helps you make good decisions, consider consequences, and choose your words carefully, that's called the prefrontal cortex, and it sits right behind your forehead. When your amygdala sounds the alarm, it actually shuts down parts of your prefrontal cortex. Why? Because in a real emergency, you don't need to think. You need to act. You need to move. But in most modern situations, this is exactly backwards. What you actually need when you're angry is more thinking, not less. You need to decide whether this argument is worth having. You need to choose words that won't destroy your relationships. But your brain has literally turned off the part that helps you do those things. This is why things get so messy. Your body is in full survival mode, your thinking brain is partially offline, and you're trying to handle a situation that actually requires patience and wisdom. It's like trying to solve a math problem while someone is blasting an air horn in your ear. No wonder we say things we regret. No wonder we make situations worse instead of better. Your body is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's just doing it at the wrong time for the wrong reasons. And understanding this is huge because it takes away so much of the shame. You're not a bad person for losing it. You're just a person with a very old brain living in a very new world. But here's the hopeful part. Once you understand what's happening in your body, you can start working with it instead of against it. You can learn to recognize the physical signs that your alarm system is going off, the hot face, the pounding heart, the clenched jaw. And when you notice those signs early, you can do something about them before your thinking brain goes completely offline. You can take a breath, step away, drink some cold water, do whatever helps your body understand that there's no tiger here, just a frustrating situation. You're basically teaching your ancient survival system that it's okay to calm down. And the more you practice, the better your body gets at listening. So the next time you feel that familiar heat rising in your chest, I want you to remember what's actually going on. Your amygdala just saw something it didn't like and hit the panic button. Your body is flooding with chemicals designed to help you survive. Your thinking brain is getting ready to take a nap. None of this makes you weak or broken. It makes you human. And the good news is that now you know what's happening, you can start working with your body instead of just getting dragged along by it. That knowledge alone is a powerful tool. The rest of this book will give you even more. Chapter 3: Finding Your Anger Fingerprint. Here's something interesting that might surprise you. No two people experience anger exactly the same way. Sure, the basic biology is similar for all of us, but how that biology shows up in your life is as unique as your fingerprint. Some people explode like fireworks, loud and bright and over quickly. Other people implode, swallowing their anger until it eats them up from the inside. Some people get cold and quiet, using words like weapons wrapped in ice. And some people don't even realize they're angry until their body gives out or they snap at someone they love over something tiny. None of these styles is right or wrong. They're just patterns you learned somewhere along the way, patterns that made sense at some point but might not be serving you anymore. Let me introduce you to the exploder first because this is the style most people think of when they imagine anger. Exploders are the ones who raise their voices, slam doors, throw things, and say whatever comes to mind without any filter. Their anger is hot and fast, burning through a room like wildfire. If this is you, you probably scare people sometimes, even when you don't mean to. You might have a reputation for being intense or unpredictable. People walk on eggshells around you and you hate that, but you don't always know how to stop it. The explosion brings a kind of relief in the moment. All that pressure finally releases. But then comes the shame, the regret, the apologies, the cleanup. Exploders often feel terrible after they blow up, but they also feel trapped, like they can't control when the next eruption will happen. Then there are the imploders, and these folks often don't even think of themselves as angry people. Imploders are experts at swallowing their feelings. Someone treats them badly and they say nothing. Something unfair happens and they let it go. They tell themselves they're just easygoing, that they don't let things bother them. But here's the truth. The anger doesn't disappear just because you don't express it. It goes somewhere. It goes into your body, where it becomes headaches and stomach problems and tight shoulders and high blood pressure. It goes into your relationships, where it becomes resentment and distance and quiet contempt. It goes into your mind, where it becomes anxiety and depression and a constant low hum of unhappiness. Imploders often don't realize how angry they are until something small finally breaks them, and they explode in a way that shocks everyone, including themselves. The third style is the righteous avenger, and this one can be tricky to spot because it feels so justified. Righteous avengers are angry about things that seem completely reasonable. They're angry about injustice, about people being treated badly, about the world not being fair. They have strong opinions and they're not afraid to share them, especially online where they can find whole communities of people who agree with them. The problem is that righteous anger feeds on itself. The more you focus on what's wrong, the more wrong things you see. The more you argue with people who disagree, the more entrenched you become. Righteous avengers often feel like they're fighting for something important, and maybe they are, but their anger costs them peace, connection, and sometimes their ability to see the humanity in people on the other side. Now here's the thing. Most of us are actually a mix of these styles depending on the situation. You might explode at home with people you feel safe with, but implode at work where you're afraid of consequences. You might be a righteous avenger about politics but let personal slights roll right off your back. Your anger fingerprint is unique to you, shaped by your family, your culture, your experiences, and your personality. And the first step to changing your relationship with anger is understanding exactly how it shows up for you. When do you explode? When do you shut down? When do you get righteous and self-righteous? What situations trigger each style? The answers to these questions are gold. So here's what I want you to do. For the next few days, just notice. Don't try to change anything yet. Just watch yourself like a friendly scientist observing an interesting subject. When anger shows up, what does it look like? What does it feel like in your body? What do you do? What happens right before? What happens right after? No judgment, just observation. You're gathering data about your own anger fingerprint, and that data is going to be incredibly useful as we move through the rest of this book. You can't change what you don't understand. So let's start with understanding, pure and simple. Your anger has a pattern, and patterns can be learned and unlearned. That's what the rest of this journey is all about. Chapter 4. The Hidden Feelings Beneath Your Anger. Here's a question that might change everything for you. When you're angry, what are you really feeling? I know that sounds like a strange question. You're feeling angry, obviously. That's the whole point. But here's what decades of research and thousands of therapy sessions have shown. Anger is almost never the first emotion. Anger is almost always the second emotion, the one that shows up on top to protect something more vulnerable underneath. Think of anger like a suit of armor. It's hard and strong and keeps people at a distance. But underneath that armor is something softer, something that feels exposed and needs protection. And until you understand what's underneath, you'll keep reaching for that armor every time you feel even a little bit threatened. So what's under there? So many possibilities. Hurt is a big one. Someone said something that cut deep, and before you could feel the hurt, you got angry. Anger is easier than hurt because hurt makes you cry, makes you feel weak, makes you want to curl up. Anger makes you feel powerful, in control, ready to fight back. Fear is another big one. You're afraid of losing someone, afraid of looking stupid, afraid of not being good enough. Fear is terrifying to feel, so your brain turns it into anger instead. Anger feels active. Fear feels passive. Anger feels like doing something. Fear feels like being helpless. No wonder your brain prefers anger. Embarrassment lives under there too. You did something dumb and now people are looking at you. And the heat in your face could be embarrassment, but it comes out as irritation instead. Feeling overwhelmed is another huge hidden feeling. Your life is too full, too loud, too demanding. You have no space, no quiet, no rest. You're running on empty and everyone wants something from you. In that state, the smallest thing can make you snap. But the snap isn't really about the small thing. It's about everything. It's about being exhausted and touched out and asked for one more thing when you have nothing left to give. The anger is a signal that your cup is empty, but it comes out looking like a tantrum over someone leaving a dish in the sink. Underneath the anger is a person who just needs a break and doesn't know how to ask for it. Feeling disrespected is another common one hiding underneath. Someone treated you like you didn't matter, like your time wasn't valuable, like your opinion wasn't worth hearing. And underneath that feeling of disrespect is often something even deeper, a wound from long ago, a time when you really weren't valued, a message you learned in childhood that you're not important. The current situation just tapped into that old wound, and your anger is trying to protect you from feeling that old pain again. You're not just angry about today. You're angry about every time you've ever felt small, and all of that history is showing up in this one moment. Feeling helpless is maybe the scariest thing to feel. Helpless means you can't fix it, can't change it, can't make it better. Helpless means sitting with something painful and not being able to do anything about it. Anger is the opposite of helpless. Anger means you can fight, you can act, you can do something. So when life makes you feel helpless, anger rushes in to save you from that terrible feeling. You get angry at the government, at your boss, at the weather, at anything that gives you back a sense of power. But underneath, the anger is just a person who feels powerless in a world that's too big and too complicated to control. Here's the beautiful thing about understanding this. Once you know what's really going on underneath, you can actually do something about the real problem. If you're angry because you're hurt, the solution isn't to fight, it's to communicate your hurt or tend to your own wound. If you're angry because you're overwhelmed, the solution isn't to yell at the person who asked you a question. It's to rest, to set boundaries, to ask for help. If you're angry because you feel helpless, the solution isn't to rage at things you can't change. It's to find the small things you actually can control and find peace with the rest. The anger is just the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. Listen to what it's trying to tell you about what you really need. Chapter 5. The Stop Button, Pausing Before You Pop. Picture this. You're in the middle of an argument or someone just did something incredibly frustrating and you can feel it starting. That familiar heat creeps up your neck. Your jaw tightens. Your voice gets louder or maybe it gets scary quiet. You know what's coming. You know that in about 5 seconds you're going to say something you can't take back or do something you'll regret. You can see the train wreck coming, but you feel powerless to stop it. What if you had a stop button? What if there was something you could do in that tiny window between the trigger and the explosion that would change everything? Good news. There is, and it's simpler than you probably think. The first tool is physical, and it's almost too simple to believe. When you feel anger rising, change your body temperature. Get cold. If you're inside, go splash cold water on your face. If you're near a fridge, grab an ice cube and hold it in your hand. If you're outside on a cold day, step into the air for a minute. If you're stuck somewhere with no access to cold, press your hands against a cold wall or even just imagine holding snow. Cold water triggers something called the mammalian dive reflex, which actually slows down your heart rate and shifts your nervous system toward calm. It's like hitting a reset button on your body. The anger chemicals are still there, but the cold gives you a moment, a pause, a tiny window where you can choose something different. The second tool is movement, but not the kind of movement your angry body wants to do. Your angry body wants to punch something, throw something, storm out of the room dramatically. That movement feeds the anger. Instead, try slow movement. Roll your shoulders back and down. Stretch your neck side to side. Press your feet firmly into the floor and feel the ground under you. If you can, step outside and walk slowly around the block, not storming, just walking. The goal is to interrupt the physical pattern of anger with something different. Your body has a script for anger: clench, tighten, prepare to fight. When you introduce a different script, stretch, breathe, move slowly, your brain gets confused for a second, and that confusion is actually helpful. It breaks the momentum. The third tool is the simplest of all, and you can do it anywhere, anytime, without anyone even noticing. Breathe, but not the way you normally breathe. When you're angry, your breathing gets shallow and fast up in your chest. That fast breathing tells your brain that danger is still here, keep the alarm going. You need to slow it down. Breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4, out for 4. Or try breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth like you're blowing through a straw. The key is to make your exhale longer than your inhale. Long exhales tell your nervous system that it's safe to calm down. You're basically hacking your own biology, using your breath to send a message to your brain that the emergency is over. Fourth tool is about your eyes. When you're angry, your vision actually narrows. Your brain focuses on the threat in front of you and everything else fades away. That narrowed focus keeps you stuck in anger. So widen your view deliberately. Look around the room. Notice the color of the walls, the shape of the furniture, the way the light comes through the window. If you're outside, look at the sky, the trees, the buildings in the distance. Let your eyes take in the whole scene, not just the person or thing that's making you angry. This simple act of widening your visual field actually helps calm your nervous system, because it tells your brain that you're safe enough to pay attention to other things. The threat isn't the only thing in your world. Here's the thing about all these tools. They don't fix the situation. They don't solve the problem that made you angry. What they do is give you something even more valuable. They give you a choice. When you're in full explosion mode, you have no choices. You just react, and the reaction is usually terrible. But when you pause, even for 10 seconds, even for one long breath, you create space. In that space, you can choose. You can choose to speak calmly instead of yelling. You can choose to walk away instead of fighting. You can choose to address the real issue instead of just dumping your anger everywhere. The pause is everything, and these tools are how you create it. Chapter 6. Breathe like you mean it. Let's talk about breathing. I know. Every wellness book tells you to breathe, and maybe you've rolled your eyes at that advice 100 times. Breathing feels like the most obvious thing in the world. You're doing it right now without even thinking about it. How could something so simple possibly make a difference when you're in the middle of losing your mind? But here's the thing. Breathing is the only part of your autonomic nervous system that you can control on purpose. Your heart beats automatically. Your digestion happens automatically. But your breath sits right at the border between automatic and intentional. You can let it run on its own, or you can take the wheel. And when you take the wheel, you can actually change what's happening in your body and brain. When you get angry, your breathing changes in a very specific way. It gets faster and shallower, centered up in your chest. You start taking quick little sips of air instead of full, deep breaths. This kind of breathing signals to your brain that something is wrong, that you need to be ready for action. Your brain responds by keeping your stress system cranked up. It's a loop. Anger makes you breathe fast. Fast breathing keeps you angry. But here's the beautiful part. You can break that loop by changing your breathing on purpose. You can send your brain a different signal. You can breathe in a way that says, actually, everything is fine, we can calm down now. And your brain will listen because your brain is always paying attention to how you're breathing. So let's learn a few specific breaths that actually work. The first one is called box breathing, and it's used by Navy SEALs to stay calm in situations that would make most of us completely lose it. You breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, breathe out for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts. That's one box. Do that 4 or 5 times and notice what happens in your body. The counting gives your brain something to focus on besides the thing that's making you angry. The long exhale tells your nervous system it's safe. The pauses between breaths create space. You can do this anywhere, in your car, at your desk, in the bathroom, at a party. No one even has to know you're doing it. The second breath is even simpler. Just make your exhale longer than your inhale. Breathe in for 3 counts, out for 6. Or in for 4, out for 8. The exact numbers don't matter as much as the ratio. Long exhales are like pressing the brake pedal on your nervous system. They activate the part of your nervous system that's responsible for rest and digestion, the part that calms everything down. Every time you take a long, slow exhale, you're telling your body that the emergency is over, that it's safe to relax. Do this a few times and you'll actually feel your shoulders drop, your jaw unclench, your heart slow down. It's not magic, it's just biology. The third breath is one you can use when you need to calm down fast, but you can't be obvious about it. Just take one deep breath and sigh it out loud. That big sigh that says, ah. You know the one. People sigh when they're tired or frustrated, but they also sigh when they're relieved. That's not a coincidence. The sigh is your body's natural way of resetting your breathing and calming your system. So if you're in a meeting or an argument and you feel anger rising, just take one deep breath and let it out in a long, audible sigh. People will just think you're tired or thinking hard, but you'll be activating your body's built-in calm-down mechanism without anyone knowing. Here's the most important thing about all of this. You have to practice these breaths when you're not angry. You wouldn't wait until you're in a car accident to learn how to use your brakes. You practice braking in empty parking lots and normal traffic so that when an emergency happens, your body knows what to do. Same thing with breathing. Practice box breathing while you're watching TV. Practice long exhales while you're waiting in line. Practice sighing when you're just sitting around. Build the muscle memory. Then when anger shows up, your body will have a familiar pattern to fall back on. You won't have to think about it. You'll just breathe, and that breath will save you from saying or doing something you'll regret. Chapter 7. The 5-second rule for your mouth. Here's a truth that might sting a little. The damage from anger almost never comes from the feeling itself. It comes from what you say when you're angry. Words leave your mouth and they land in someone's heart and they stay there. You can apologize later, and you should, but you can't unsay what you said. You can't unhear the sound of your own voice saying something cruel to someone you love. So if we're going to get serious about anger management, we have to get serious about what comes out of your mouth in those hot moments. And that's where the 5-second rule comes in. Not for food dropped on the floor, for your words. The 5-second rule is simple. When you feel anger rising and you know you're about to say something, give yourself 5 seconds before you speak. Just 5. Count them in your head if you need to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In those 5 seconds, a few things happen. First, your body gets a tiny chance to calm down. Not completely, but enough. Second, your thinking brain has a moment to come back online. Third, you create space between the trigger and your response, and in that space lives your freedom to choose. The words that come out after 5 seconds are almost always better than the words that were about to come out in the first second. Almost always. But here's the tricky part. In the middle of an argument, 5 seconds can feel like an eternity. Your angry brain is screaming at you to speak now, to defend yourself now, to strike back now. Waiting 5 seconds can feel like you're losing, like you're letting the other person win. You have to remind yourself that silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. Silence is you taking back control of your own mouth. The other person might keep talking. Let them. You're not in a race. You're in a conversation that matters. And conversations that matter deserve words that you actually mean, not just words that your anger vomited out. During those 5 seconds, you need something to do with your brain. Otherwise, it will just keep spinning on what you want to say. So give it a job. Ask yourself one simple question. Will these words help or hurt? That's it. Will what I'm about to say make this situation better or worse? Will it solve the problem or add to it? Will it bring us closer together or push us further apart? Will I be glad I said this tomorrow morning? That last question is a good one. Tomorrow morning, you're going to wake up and this moment will be in the past. How do you want to feel about what you said? The answer to that question can guide your words better than your anger ever could. Sometimes the best thing to say in those 5 seconds is nothing at all. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say, I need a minute before I respond. Can we pause here? This might feel awkward, especially if you're not used to doing it, but awkward is better than damaging. Awkward passes. The wounds from cruel words can last forever, so get comfortable with being uncomfortable in those moments. Say you need a drink of water. Say you need to use the bathroom. Say you need to think about what you just heard. Create a pause by any means necessary. The pause is your friend. The pause is what saves relationships. And here's a secret that might help you actually want to take that pause. The person you're arguing with probably needs it too. They're probably just as flooded as you are, just as reactive, just as likely to say something they'll regret. When you pause, you give both of you a chance to reset. You model something different. You show that this conversation matters enough to handle with care. Sometimes the other person will keep pushing, keep trying to pull you back into the fight. Stay calm. Hold your pause. You're not responsible for their reactions right now. You're only responsible for your own mouth. And your mouth is about to say something you can actually stand behind. Chapter 8. Cooling down when you're already hot. Sometimes you don't catch it in time. Sometimes the explosion already happened. You said the thing, you did the thing, you made the mess. And now you're standing in the wreckage feeling terrible, wondering how you got here again. This chapter is for those moments. Because learning to manage anger isn't just about preventing blow-ups. It's also about what you do after, how you come back to yourself, how you repair the damage, how you keep one bad moment from turning into a ruined day or a broken relationship. The aftermath matters just as much as the moment itself. First thing first, get yourself out of the situation if you can. Walk away, go to another room, step outside, drive around the block. Your body is still flooded with chemicals and your brain is still not working right. You cannot fix anything in this state. You cannot have a productive conversation. You cannot apologize in a way that lands well. You need to cool down first, and you need space to do that. So take it. You might feel like you're running away or leaving things unresolved, but you're not. You're doing the responsible thing. You're giving yourself a chance to become a person who can actually help clean up this mess instead of making it worse. Now cool your body down. Remember the physical tools from earlier. Use them now. Splash cold water on your face. Drink a full glass of cold water. Put an ice pack on your wrists or the back of your neck. Go outside if the weather is cool. Move your body in a way that releases some of the pent-up energy. Jump, stretch, shake your hands out, go for a brisk walk. Your body is wired for fight or flight, and you just did the fight part. Now you need to complete the cycle so your system can settle down. Physical movement helps burn off the stress chemicals so they stop circulating in your body. Give yourself at least 20 minutes before you try to do anything else. While you're cooling down, resist the urge to replay everything in your head. I know it's hard. Your brain wants to run the tape over and over, analyzing who said what and who was right and who started it. That thinking will keep you angry. It will keep you stuck. So instead, try to focus on your body and your breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice the temperature of the air. Listen to the sounds around you. Bring yourself into the present moment instead of living in the argument that already happened. The argument is over. It's done. You can't change it, but you can change what happens next, and that starts with getting fully present in your own body right now. Once you're calmer, it's time to think about repair. Not blame, not justification, not explaining why you did what you did. Repair. This might mean apologizing to someone you hurt. A real apology, not a fake one. I'm sorry for what I said. It was wrong. It wasn't your fault. I'm going to work on handling my anger better. That's it. No buts, no explanations, no bringing up what they did wrong. Just own your part. If the other person also did something wrong, you can address that later when everyone is calm. Right now, just own your piece of the mess. It takes courage to do this. It also builds trust. People can forgive someone who owns their mistakes. It's the defensiveness that drives them crazy. Finally, be gentle with yourself. You messed up. You're human. This is going to happen again because you're not aiming for perfection, you're aiming for progress. So after you've cooled down and done what you can to repair, let it go. Don't spend the rest of the day beating yourself up. Don't replay the moment over and over, feeding your shame. Notice what you can learn from what happened. What was the trigger? What could you have done differently? What will you try next time? Then take that learning and move forward. The point isn't to never fall down. The point is to get back up, dust yourself off, and keep walking. You're doing the work. That's what matters. Chapter 9. Your Anger Trigger Map. Imagine walking through a field that you know has landmines buried somewhere. You'd be tense the whole time, never knowing when you might step on something that blows up in your face. That's what life feels like when you don't understand your anger triggers. You're just walking along, minding your own business, and suddenly something explodes, and you're standing in the middle of a mess wondering what happened. But what if you had a map? What if you knew exactly where the mines were buried so you could walk carefully around them, or even better, dig them up and disarm them forever? That's what this chapter is about, building your anger trigger map. Let's start with the obvious ones. Certain people probably show up on your map. Maybe it's a family member who knows exactly which buttons to push. Maybe it's a coworker who treats you like you're invisible. Maybe it's a neighbor whose dog won't stop barking. These people are triggers for you, and that's okay. It doesn't make you a bad person. It just means you have a history with them, or they remind you of something painful, or they push against something you value. The first step is just naming them. Write them down if you want to. No judgment, just facts. These are the people who make anger more likely to show up. Now let's think about places. Where does your anger live? Maybe it's in your car during rush hour. Maybe it's at work when your boss piles on one more thing. Maybe it's at the grocery store when lines are long and people are slow. Maybe it's at home right after you walk in the door from a long day. Places have energy. Some places drain you. Some places overstimulate you. Some places remind you of other times you were angry. Pay attention to where you are when anger strikes. You might start to notice patterns you never saw before. And once you see the pattern, you can start making changes. Maybe you leave 5 minutes earlier to avoid rush hour stress. Maybe you take 5 minutes in your car before going inside after work. Maybe you shop at different times or different stores. Times of day matter too. When are you most likely to lose it? For many people, it's late afternoon when energy is low and blood sugar is dropping. For others, it's first thing in the morning when they're rushing to get out the door. For parents, it's often that chaotic window between coming home and bedtime when everyone is tired and hungry and needing things. Notice your own patterns. If you know that 5 p.m. is your danger zone, you can plan for it. You can have a snack ready. You can build in a 10-minute buffer where no one is allowed to ask you for anything. You can lower your expectations for that hour and just focus on getting through it without blowing up. Physical states are huge triggers that most people overlook. Are you hungry? Angry. Are you tired? Angry. Are you overwhelmed? Angry. Are you in pain? Angry. Your body's needs are real, and when they're not met, your ability to handle frustration drops way down. This isn't weakness. This is biology. A tired, hungry person literally does not have the same emotional resources as a well-rested, well-fed person. So part of your trigger map is paying attention to your own body. When was the last time you ate? When did you sleep well last? Have you had any time to yourself recently? Sometimes the best anger management tool is a sandwich and a nap. Thoughts are the sneakiest triggers of all. It's not just what happens to you that makes you angry. It's what you tell yourself about what happens. Someone cuts you off and your brain says they did that on purpose just to ruin your day. Your partner forgets to do something and your brain says they don't care about you, they never listen. These thoughts are often automatic, popping into your head before you even realize it. But they're also often wrong. Most people aren't trying to ruin your day. Most forgetfulness isn't personal, so part of your trigger map is catching those thoughts and questioning them. Is that thought definitely true? Is there another way to see this? Your anger often comes from the story you tell, not just the thing that happened. Chapter 10: Sleep, Food, and the Grumpy Connection. Here's something they don't tell you in most anger management books. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for your anger has nothing to do with feelings or communication or childhood wounds. Sometimes the most powerful thing is getting enough sleep and eating something. I know it sounds too simple. I know it sounds like the kind of advice that couldn't possibly make a difference when you're really struggling. But trust me on this. Your brain is a physical organ. It runs on fuel and rest just like the rest of your body. When you're tired and hungry, your brain does not work right. And one of the first things to go is your ability to manage frustration. Let's talk about sleep first. When you don't get enough sleep, your amygdala, that's your brain's alarm system, gets more sensitive. It starts seeing threats everywhere. At the same time, your prefrontal cortex, the part that helps you make good decisions and control your impulses, gets weaker. So you have an alarm system that's going off all the time and a control system that's too tired to do anything about it. That's a recipe for anger explosions. Studies show that people who are sleep-deprived are much more likely to overreact to frustration, to see neutral faces as hostile, to snap at people over small things. If you want to get serious about anger, get serious about sleep. Now food. Your brain runs on glucose. When your blood sugar drops, your brain doesn't have enough fuel to do its job properly. This is so common that there's actually a word for it: hangry. Hungry plus angry equals hangry. And it's real. Low blood sugar impairs your self-control, makes you more irritable, and makes small frustrations feel huge. You know this from experience. You felt that shaky, irritable feeling when you've gone too long without eating. You've snapped at someone and later realized you were just hungry, so pay attention to this. Keep snacks handy. Eat regular meals. Don't let yourself get to the point of shaky hunger and then wonder why you're losing it over nothing. Water matters too. Even mild dehydration affects your mood and your ability to think clearly. Your brain is mostly water, and when it doesn't have enough, everything works worse. You get headaches, you get tired, you get irritable. You might not even realize you're dehydrated because you're used to running at 80%. But that 80% is showing up in your patience, your focus, your ability to handle stress. Drink water throughout the day. Keep a bottle on your desk. Notice how you feel when you're properly hydrated versus when you're not. The difference is real. Here's the thing about all of this. It's not glamorous. It's not deep psychological work. It's just basic body care. But basic body care is the foundation that everything else sits on. You can have all the coping skills in the world, but if you're exhausted and starving and dehydrated, those skills won't be there when you need them. Your brain will be too busy trying to survive to remember any of the tools you learned. So take care of the basics first. Sleep when you're tired, eat when you're hungry, drink when you're thirsty. It sounds too simple, but simple works. And when your body is taken care of, your anger has a much harder time taking over. One more thing about this. Be honest with yourself about what's really going on. Sometimes you'll get angry and it will have nothing to do with the situation in front of you. It will be because you got 5 hours of sleep last night and skipped lunch, and now someone is asking you a question you don't want to answer. In those moments, the kindest thing you can do for yourself and everyone around you is to recognize what's actually happening. Say to yourself, I'm not really this angry about this thing. I'm tired and hungry and my brain is struggling. Then take care of the real problem. Eat something. Rest if you can. Give yourself grace. You're not a bad person. You're just a person who needs a sandwich and a nap. Chapter 11. Unlearning the anger you learned. Here's a question that might take you somewhere interesting. How did your family handle anger when you were growing up? Think back. When someone got mad in your house, what happened? Did they yell and slam doors and throw things? Did they go silent and cold, giving everyone the silent treatment for days? Did they make jokes and pretend everything was fine when clearly it wasn't? Did they explode and then act like nothing happened? Your answers to these questions matter because your family was your first school for emotions. You learned how to handle anger by watching the people around you, even if you didn't realize you were learning. And those lessons are still playing out in your life today. If you grew up around loud, explosive anger, you might have learned that this is just what anger looks like. You might have learned that yelling is normal, that saying cruel things in the heat of the moment is just what people do, that slamming doors and throwing things is part of being upset. You might also have learned that anger is scary and dangerous and something to avoid at all costs. Or you might have learned both, that anger is terrifying and also that it's the only way to be heard. These patterns run deep. They live in your body, in your reflexes, in the way your throat tightens when you're upset. You didn't choose them, but you can choose to change them. If you grew up around silent anger, you might have learned that anger is something you swallow. You might have learned that expressing anger is bad or dangerous or selfish. You might have learned that good people don't get angry, or that if you do get angry, you should hide it so well that no one ever knows. You might have learned that love and anger can't coexist, that if you're angry at someone, it means you don't love them. These lessons can be just as damaging as explosive anger because they teach you to bury your feelings, and buried feelings don't disappear. They just grow underground until they poison everything. If you grew up in a family where anger was unpredictable, sometimes ignored, sometimes explosive with no clear pattern, you might have learned that the world is not safe. You might have learned to walk on eggshells, to constantly scan for signs of danger, to make yourself small so you don't set anyone off. This hypervigilance stays with you. You might find yourself overreacting to small signs of anger in others because your body remembers a time when small signs meant big danger was coming. You're not crazy. You're just carrying old survival patterns that don't fit your current life. Here's the good news. You're an adult now. You get to choose. You get to look at what you learned and decide what to keep and what to leave behind. Maybe there are parts of your family's anger style that actually work for you. Maybe there are parts that you want to throw away completely. You get to decide. This is your life now. You're not a kid anymore, stuck in a house where you have no power. You have power now. You have choice. You have the ability to learn new ways, to practice new responses, to become the person you wish you'd had around when you were growing up. This work takes time. You might notice yourself sounding like your parents sometimes, and that can be painful. Be gentle with yourself. You're not bad for having learned what you learned. You were just a kid trying to survive, but now you get to teach yourself something different. You get to model a new way for the people in your life, especially if you have kids of your own. You get to break the cycle. And every time you handle anger differently than your family did, you're not just helping yourself. You're changing the future for everyone who comes after you. That's powerful. That's worth the work. Chapter 12. Boundaries that don't feel mean. Let's talk about one of the hardest parts of anger management, setting boundaries. For many of us, the word boundary sounds harsh. It sounds like building walls, keeping people out, being mean. But here's the truth. Boundaries are actually acts of kindness. They're how you tell people what you need so you don't build up resentment and explode later. They're how you protect your energy so you have something left for the people you love. They're how you take care of yourself so you can show up as the person you want to be. Boundaries aren't mean. Boundaries are honest. And honesty is the foundation of every healthy relationship. So what does a boundary actually look like in real life? It might sound like this. I can't talk about this right now. Can we pick this up tomorrow when I'm calmer? It might sound like this. I need you to speak to me respectfully. If you keep yelling, I'm going to leave the room and we can talk later. It might sound like this. I'm not available to work late this week. I need to protect my rest time. It might sound like this. I love you, but I can't lend you money right now. Notice what these have in common. They're clear. They're calm. They're not attacking the other person. They're just stating what you need or what you will or won't do. That's it. That's a boundary. The hard part is that other people might not like your boundaries. They might be used to you always saying yes, always being available, always putting their needs before your own. When you start setting boundaries, they might push back. They might get angry. They might try to make you feel guilty. This doesn't mean your boundary is wrong. It just means the other person is having feelings about it. And their feelings are their responsibility, not yours. You can be kind and still hold your boundary. You can say, I understand you're disappointed, and I still need to do what's right for me right now. You can care about someone's feelings without letting those feelings run your life. Here's another important thing. Boundaries aren't just for other people. They're also for you. You need boundaries with your own mind. You need to set limits on how much you'll replay old arguments, how much you'll scroll through angry content online, how much you'll let yourself spiral into worst-case scenarios. You can say to yourself, I'm not going to think about this for the next hour. I'm going to focus on something else instead. You can set a boundary with your own anger, deciding that you won't feed it by dwelling on grievances. This is harder than it sounds because your brain loves to rehearse conflict. But you can practice. You can gently redirect your attention every time it wanders back to the thing that made you mad. Start small with boundaries. Pick one area of your life where you're consistently overwhelmed or resentful. Maybe it's saying yes to things you don't want to do. Maybe it's letting people interrupt your downtime. Maybe it's staying in conversations that drain you. Pick one small boundary and practice it. I'm not going to answer work emails after 7 p.m. I'm going to take 10 minutes alone when I first get home. I'm going to say no to one thing this week that I don't want to do. Notice how it feels. Notice what happens. You might be surprised to find that the world doesn't end. People adjust. And you feel a little more like yourself, a little less angry, a little more in charge of your own life. Chapter 13. Fighting fair with your people. Here's a truth that might be hard to hear. The people you love most are probably the ones who get the worst of your anger. It makes sense when you think about it. You feel safe with them. You trust that they won't leave no matter what you say. You let your guard down, and sometimes that means you let the ugly out too. But here's the thing. Your loved ones deserve better than your leftovers. They deserve the best of you, not whatever's left after the world has worn you down. And if you want relationships that last, you have to learn how to fight fair, because conflict is going to happen. The question isn't whether you'll argue. The question is whether you'll argue in a way that brings you closer or tears you apart. So let's talk about rules for fighting fair. Rule number 1, no name calling. Once you start calling someone names, you're not fighting about the issue anymore. You're just trying to hurt them, and those wounds last. You can apologize for calling someone a name, but they'll always remember that you said it. So make a rule. No matter how angry you get, you don't call names. You don't attack who they are as a person. You stick to the behavior that's bothering you. You say, "I felt hurt when you did that," not "you're such a selfish person." One addresses the action, the other attacks their character. Stick to the action. Rule number 2, no bringing up the past. When you're in a fight about something that happened today, it's tempting to pull out all the old stuff. "You did this last week too. You always do this. You never listen. This is just like that time 3 years ago." All of that is a trap. It turns one disagreement into a pile of every disagreement you've ever had. Nobody can defend against everything they've ever done wrong. So stay in the present. Fight about what just happened, not what happened last month or last year. If there's a pattern that needs addressing, that's a separate conversation for a calm time. In the middle of a fight, stick to right now. Rule number 3, no leaving without saying where you're going. Sometimes you need to walk away to cool down. That's healthy. But if you just disappear without a word, the other person is left standing there wondering if you're coming back, if you're done forever, if they should come after you. That escalates anxiety and makes everything worse. So if you need to leave, say something. "I'm too angry to talk right now. I'm going to take a walk and we can talk in an hour." That gives the other person information. It tells them you're coming back. It sets a timeline. It turns your exit into a responsible act instead of an abandonment. Rule number 4, listen to understand, not to win. Most of us listen to arguments with one goal, finding the weak spot in the other person's point so we can attack it. We're not really listening. We're just waiting for our turn to talk, but real listening changes everything. When you actually hear what the other person is saying, when you can repeat it back to them in a way that makes them feel understood, something shifts. They feel seen. They feel less defensive. They become more able to hear you too, so try this. After they speak, say, "Let me make sure I understand. You're feeling X because Y, is that right?" It sounds simple, but it works. Rule number 5, remember that you're on the same team. In a healthy relationship, you and the other person are not enemies. You're teammates trying to solve a problem together. The problem is not each other. The problem is whatever is causing the conflict. Keep reminding yourself of this. We're both hurting right now. We both want this to get better. We both matter. This isn't about winning. It's about finding a way through together. When you can hold on to that, even in the middle of a fight, it changes everything. You stop trying to defeat each other and start trying to understand each other. And that's where real resolution lives. Chapter 14, when anger lives online. Let's talk about something that didn't exist for most of human history. Online anger. Social media, comment sections, text messages, email chains. These digital spaces have become anger factories, designed to keep us engaged by keeping us worked up. And if you've ever found yourself in a heated online argument that went nowhere, or felt your blood pressure rise just from scrolling through your feed, or said something in a text that you'd never say to someone's face, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Online anger is different from in-person anger, and it needs its own tools. First, understand how the platforms work. Social media companies make money when you stay on their apps. What keeps you scrolling? Content that makes you feel something strong. And what feeling is strongest and stickiest? Anger. Angry content gets shared more. Angry comments get more replies. Angry people keep coming back to argue. The algorithms have learned that feeding you things that make you mad is good for business, so they do it on purpose. You're not weak for getting angry online. You're being manipulated by systems designed by very smart people to keep you hooked. Knowing this helps you step back and see the game instead of just playing it. Second, remember that there's a human on the other side. It's easy to forget this when you're looking at a profile picture and a username. It's easy to say cruel things to a screen. But behind that screen is a real person with real feelings, a real life, real people who love them. They might be wrong. They might be saying things that upset you. They're still a human being. And the words you type will land in their mind and heart just like words said to your face. If you wouldn't say it to someone sitting across from you, don't say it online. That simple rule would clean up most of the internet. Third, create space between reading and responding. Online communication is fast, but you don't have to be. When you read something that makes your blood boil, do not reply immediately. Close the app. Walk away. Give yourself time to cool down. Come back in an hour or a day and see if you still feel the same way. Most of the time, you won't. Most of the time, you'll be grateful you didn't send that angry reply. The internet will still be there. The argument will still be there if you still want to have it. But you'll be in a much better place to have it constructively instead of destructively. Fourth, learn to recognize when an argument is pointless. Some people online are not interested in good faith discussion. They want to provoke you, to waste your time, to make you angry. You can usually tell pretty quickly. If someone isn't listening, isn't engaging with what you're actually saying, is just repeating the same thing over and over, or seems to enjoy making you upset, you have permission to stop. You don't have to have the last word. You don't have to convince everyone. You can just walk away. That's not losing. That's protecting your peace. And your peace is worth more than winning an argument with a stranger who doesn't care what you think. Finally, curate your feed. You have more control than you think. You can mute words that trigger you. You can unfollow accounts that consistently make you angry. You can block people who bring out the worst in you. You can leave groups that drain your energy. This isn't building an echo chamber where everyone agrees with you. It's building a healthy environment for your mind. Just like you wouldn't keep toxic people in your living room, you don't have to keep them in your digital space. You get to choose what you consume. Choose things that inform you, challenge you in good ways, and leave you feeling better, not worse. Chapter 15. Forgiving yourself for the blow-ups. This might be the most important chapter in this whole book, because here's the truth. You're going to mess up. You're going to have days where you forget everything you learned and lose it completely. You're going to say things you regret and do things you wish you could take back. You're going to fall short of the person you want to be. And in those moments, you have a choice. You can drown in shame, telling yourself you're hopeless, that nothing will ever change, that you're a bad person who doesn't deserve love. Or you can forgive yourself, learn what you can, and keep going. One of these choices leads to more anger. The other leads to growth. Choose growth. Self-forgiveness is not letting yourself off the hook. It's not pretending you didn't do anything wrong. It's the opposite. It's looking clearly at what you did, owning it fully, and then deciding that you're still worthy of love and belonging. It's saying, I did a bad thing and I am not a bad person. I hurt someone and I can also learn and change. I messed up today and tomorrow I get to try again. This is hard. Your brain will tell you that you should feel terrible forever, that beating yourself up is the only way to make sure you don't do it again. But beating yourself up doesn't work. It just makes you feel worse, and feeling worse makes you more likely to lose it again. Shame is not a good teacher. Self-compassion is. Here's a practice that might help. When you mess up, talk to yourself like you would talk to a friend you love. Imagine your best friend came to you and said, I lost my temper today and said horrible things to my partner. I feel awful. What would you say to them? Would you say, you're a terrible person, you'll never change, you don't deserve love? Of course not. You'd say, you messed up and that's hard, but you're human. You can apologize and do better next time. I still love you. Now try saying those same words to yourself. It might feel awkward at first. Do it anyway. You deserve the same kindness you give to others. Part of self-forgiveness is repair. When you hurt someone, you need to make it right if you can. A genuine apology without excuses. A commitment to do better. Changed behavior over time. These actions help you forgive yourself because they prove to yourself that you're serious about change. You're not just saying sorry, you're showing it. And every time you choose repair instead of defensiveness, you build evidence that you are becoming the person you want to be. That evidence matters. It helps you believe in yourself again. Another part of self-forgiveness is accepting that change takes time. You didn't learn your anger patterns overnight, and you won't unlearn them overnight. There will be setbacks. There will be days when you feel like you're back at square one. This is normal. This is how learning works. You're not starting over, you're practicing. Every time you fall and get back up, you're building strength. Every mistake is data for next time, so be patient with yourself. This is a long game. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is progress. The goal is being a little better this year than you were last year. That's it. That's enough. Finally, remember why you're doing this work. You're not doing it to be perfect. You're doing it because you want to hurt people less. You want to be someone your loved ones can count on. You want to feel at peace in your own skin. You want to stop being scared of your own reactions. These are beautiful reasons. They come from love, love for yourself, love for the people in your life, love for the person you're becoming. Hold on to those reasons when you mess up. Let them pull you forward. You are worthy of this work. You are worthy of peace. You are worthy of forgiveness, starting with your own. Conclusion. You made it to the end of this book, and that alone tells me something important about you. You're the kind of person who doesn't give up. You're the kind of person who looks at something hard in themselves and says, I want to understand this, I want to work on this, I want to be different. That takes courage, and I hope you're proud of yourself for showing up. Not everyone does. Not everyone is willing to look at their anger and ask hard questions, but you did. You read these chapters, you considered these ideas, and now you have tools that you didn't have before. Tools for pausing, for breathing, for understanding what's underneath your anger, for setting boundaries, for fighting fair, for forgiving yourself when you fall short. Those tools are yours now. Keep them close. Practice them. Trust that they will work better over time. The world is still going to be chaotic. People are still going to cut you off in traffic and say thoughtless things and push your buttons. Life is still going to hand you frustrations big and small. But you are not the same person who started this book. You understand yourself better now. You have new skills. You have a new way of thinking about anger, not as an enemy to defeat, but as a messenger to understand. And most importantly, you have permission to be human, to mess up, to learn, to keep going. The peace you deserve is possible. It won't be perfect and it won't happen overnight, but it's real and it's waiting for you. One breath at a time, one choice at a time, one day at a time. You've got this. I believe in you. Now go live the life you've been building toward.